I'm Elliott Evrard-Vescio, and this is my brother Tyler. We're middle school students at the Green School in South Florida, and we come on behalf of the AIA and the Wolfpack CubeSat development team. Today we'll be describing the Triadic approach of our program and how it's the intersection of aerospace engineering, entrepreneurship, as well as policy. So the Wolfpack was founded in 2015 by Mr. Kevin Simmons and Ms. Shauna Christensen, and has since been a nationally recognized leader in early 21st century learning through the Blue Sky Learning philosophy, which was created by Mr. Simmons to help students achieve incredibly lofty goals by imagining the outcome. We're the first middle school student to design, build, test, and fly our very own satellites. Using the Blue Sky Learning education model, students are able to learn real-world aerospace, science, and physics through their very own CubeSats and through publishing their research. To date, we have been to over 100 international conferences, and we advocate on both the state and federal level at Florida Space Day and Congressional Visits Day. Students are able to build their networking and their soft skills through all of this. So the Wolfpack is interesting for anyone who's interested in space or STEM in general, because we're the intersection of three domains: aerospace engineering, entrepreneurship, as well as policy. In terms of aerospace engineering, we're CubeSat manufacturers. We have 2 operational spacecrafts, and one that is launching in March of this year, and one that was just recently selected. But we also host high-altitude balloons, which are essentially large weather balloons that go into low Earth orbit with a payload that was designed fully by students so that they can record the telemetry. In terms of the entrepreneurship, we go to competitions such as the Edison Awards and place highly. And we have student illustrated children's books, 2 that have already been released, and 1 that is going to be released on Amazon soon. Lastly, in terms of advocacy and policy, we go to Florida Space Day in Florida's capital of Tallahassee, and Congressional Visits Day in the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. In 2017, we worked with Congressman Brian Mast to make CubeSats a disruptive tool in education, and just recently, we had a $350,000 appropriation submitted by the Florida House and Senate. Now I'm going to hand it over to Tyler to talk about what a CubeSat is and really delve deeper into the aerospace engineering aspect of the Wolfpack.
Thank you. So before we dive into the educational aerospace-related philosophies that we employ to make this really the most beneficial to the students, we have to first understand what we're actually building and what a CubeSat actually is. So the CubeSat, originally developed by a professor at Stanford University and Bob Twiggs in 1999, was created as a miniaturized satellite that measures 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters per U. That could be designed, built, test, and flew within a 3-year period, and was really mainly built to teach graduate school level students how to build their very own satellites. So as I was stating, we employ several philosophies that help students learn aerospace and really become the best STEM interested student they can. So the main 3 are hands-on learning philosophies, experiential learning philosophies, and Mr. Simmons' very own Blue Cube aerospace philosophy. And these philosophies go hand in hand to make it the most beneficial experience that it could be for a STEM-related or STEM-interested student. As my brother was stating, we have 2 operational satellites. One that will be launching in March, and then we also have 1 more that will be that was just selected to fly in 2025. However, we're not sure what yet. We also employ high-altitude balloons, or HABs, which are large weather balloons that give students that haven't worked on satellites yet the basic foundation that they need to design, build, test, and fly their own very own payload. Moving into the satellites that we've actually launched, in 2015, our team began to work on its first satellite, WISat-1, which was a 10 centimeters by 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter satellite, or 1U CubeSat that was based off of Near Space Launch's FastBus structure. This satellite was incredibly important because it was the first satellite to be selected through NASA's CubeSat launch initiative that provides government entities, large businesses, and graduate school level students free rides to space. As I was saying, since this was the first fully middle school proposed satellite, it also established hardware at the first middle school to build a satellite in West Palm Beach, Florida. This satellite investigated the viability of extremophile bacteria in orbit and was eventually launched out of Vandenberg Air Force Base in December of 2018. Shortly after, we began to work on our second satellite, CubeSat-1, which validated capacitor technology as an alternative to the current lithium polymer batteries that we use in spacecraft and satellites today. Much like WISeSat-1, the satellite was fully student proposed and was a 1U CubeSat based off the same vascular structure. We were selected in the 10th round of NASA's CubeSat launch initiative, and we eventually launched out of Kennedy Space Center shortly after. Next, moving into our current satellite, CubeSat-1, will be launching in March of this year, and is optimizing radiation hardening for microbits and microbit processors. This satellite is half the size of WISeSat and CubeSat, and evaluates effectiveness of hardening technologies in space. It also, as I stated, establishes hardware heritage for the microbit processing chip. Because the satellite is much smaller, it has to be hosted on a Free Flyer True hardware, which is hardware created by the same company that creates our satellite vascular structures. This satellite is incredibly important because it was funded through a student-run fundraiser and a program called the Wolf-C, which we'll touch upon later when we're talking about entrepreneurship. Moving into the future missions, this Wolfsat-1 was recently selected by Firefly, a similar program to CSLI, however it's not a government entity. It's a private organization, but it does provide us a free ride to space. This satellite will be launched sometime in late 2025, and studies a bacterium called Evrard-Vescio that was found in a Japanese landfill that has the ability to digest PET plastics and commonly used plastics such as water bottles and takeout containers. This satellite is incredibly important because if this satellite is, if we know that Evrard-Vescio can survive and thrive in space, then it will act as a new means of recycling for manned space missions, such as trips to ISS. And finally, the GreenSat-1, which is a satellite in affiliation with a small middle school in West Palm Beach, Florida, and their aerospace team, the Green Aerospace Team. So this is a school that both my brother and I attend, and we're very excited to work on the satellite with the Wolfpack and our Evrard team. So this satellite utilizes machine learning algorithms and how it validates the operations of novel microfluid devices that can monitor unrelated fluid forces. This satellite will be fully funded through the Green School and student-led fundraising, much like CubeSat-1. And finally, before I hand the floor back over to Elliott, technical skill training. As I was stating, we work with near space launch and near space education to provide us with our FastBus, but that's not all they provide us. They provide us with hands-on learning technologies and trips to their headquarters in Indiana, where we work on our satellites and work with their experts to really understand what we're doing and how we're doing it. We also work with universities such as Florida Atlantic University, South Florida, to conduct soldering workshops and other types of workshops, and we work with real engineers in the field, such as Dr. Don Platt, to work on our payloads and really perfect them. So I'd like to hand the floor back over to Elliott to discuss advocacy.
In terms of advocacy, we go on behalf of the AIAA, the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, and Florida Atlantic University, as well as Mr. Simmons Company's Blue Cube Aerospace and the AIA. Florida Space Day is an annual event at Florida's capital where companies and businesses can advocate to state legislators and representatives. However, we go on behalf of these businesses as students to bring up pressing issues in the aerospace sector, such as the workforce development and really providing the training to allow people to succeed in their jobs. The STEM pipeline, which is making sure that people are interested through their education and make sure that they stay in STEM. And then the economy, which relates to private and government entities, as well as research and development. Congressional Visits Day is a similar event. It is in the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. We advocate on behalf of the same issues. However, it's on a much larger scale. So just recently, we had a $350,000 appropriation submitted by the Florida House and Senate that aimed to help students at Palm Beach State College receive technical skills training and leadership as they transition before they transition into the workforce. On the screen, on the bottom of the screen, that's Wolfpack students working with Congressman Brian Mast in 2017 to make CubeSats a disruptive tool in education. I already stated a lot of the organizations that we work with. It's mainly Mr. Simmons Company's AIAA, as well as Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton, Florida. So So now we'd like to transition into the entrepreneurship aspect of the Wolfpack CubeSat development team. On the screen is Wolfpack student William Mayville pitching Wolf C at the Edison Awards, which is the program that fully funded CubeSat 1, which Tyler mentioned earlier. So entrepreneurship is a very important part of how a student may act. So when students want to be entrepreneurs, the Wolfpack accommodates. They get the exposure and recognition that is needed, as well as the opportunities to go to competitions such as the Edison Awards, which Tyler's going to talk about now.
So as Elliott was mentioning, we do compete in the Edison Awards, which is an event that large companies such as IBM and other large companies participate in. Recently, we submitted Blue Cube Aerospace for its after-school educational consulting and after-school programs, and we took second place above large companies such as IBM. They actually took third place. Additionally, students in the Wolfpack work on virtual reality programs that allow students that can't get their hands on an actual satellite and can't build their own satellite just because they're not as fortunate, or they just don't have the teachers or the means necessary to get an actual satellite to space. But they do have the opportunity to participate in virtual reality programming that students in the Wolfpack designed. So the images on the screen are images and renderings of inside the virtual world of WolfSat 1, which I was earlier describing, and it shows the payload being taken apart. So this here is the microfluid chip and the bacterium that will be fed through this bag here, and this is the fast bus inside.
A few years back, Wolfpack member Daniel Portis-Levy worked on the coding hackathons, which used microbits to teach kids 8 through 13 in underrepresented populations about programming in general. They had to complete a series of tasks in 24 hours that related to programming and online digital use. In addition, Wolfpack members have worked on children's books that focused on the ISS, the International Space Station, and the Falcon 9 landing heavy landings. And so this really gets children interested in STEM at a very young age that they'll want to pursue this maybe as an education. We have one book that is going to release on Amazon very soon as well. On a personal note, my brother and I have been part of the Wolfpack since elementary school, and we've grown up with it for a long time. We've traveled the country together, and we've learned a lot. So while we're at this conference, we're able to follow along and keep up as just middle school students. Thank you. We're now ready for any questions. No.
It's a totally separate. The only reason it's called Wolfpack is because the educator that started it went to UC State, I believe. Yeah. So he originally he was part of the Weiss School where we launched our first satellite, but after he switched schools, he had to change the name from Weiss. So originally it was WCDT, but it was the Weiss Aerospace Team, not Wolfpack Aerospace Team. So he just wanted to switch the name to something with the W, and since it came from. Any other questions?
So did you come to work on this project because the person who leads it is at the school you went to, or did you discover it on your own? How did you get involved in it?
So we got involved in it mainly because my older brother, he was on the first, he was one of the first students to be part of it. Actually, if we go back to the first slide. This is actually him, right, when he was younger. So he was one of the first students, and so we really, originally, he was like, oh, you should join this, it's a great opportunity. So we did it, and then we decided that this was actually something that we wanted to do as we were both interested in STEM and advocacy. So now we present and work on satellites basically every